Hello everyone, how are you doing today? Hope you're all having a good Monday. We're here today to talk some Warzone. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Fizzer. I am the creator of Warzone. I created this game all the way back in 2008, and I've been working on it full-time since 2010, and I plan to continue working on it the rest of my life if I can. I hope you're all doing well today. We're going to talk today about the recent update. 5.37 just came out recently, so we're going to go through all the updates in that. And I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have. This is an Ask Me Anything. What happened the other 33 minutes of what? I don't know what you're talking about. Feel free to ask any questions. We also have a forum thread with a bunch of questions. I'm going to be answering the questions that were asked in the forum thread. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in Twitch chat. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. Just the volume here a bit. So 5.37, this is a new update that just came out. This contains a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to be going through. The big marquee feature in this is called game groups. This is something that is actually, for many, many years, this was the most requested feature on the feature request forum. I think it still would have been. I think I actually marked it as resolved a while back when normal groups were launched, but that doesn't quite fit what people wanted. People wanted the ability to chat within a group. So let's talk about what this is. So this is if you are in a game with lots of people and you want to chat. Today, of course, every game has public chat. If you're in a team, there's also team chat. Why did that even show up? Wow, that's weird. There's public chat, team chat, and there's always been private chat where you can create a chat with a specific person and send messages to them. This is my development server, so I don't know why my messages aren't appearing. It's probably something screwed up on my development server. But yeah, you can see messages there. And now you have this new button, create new group. So you can come in here and you can actually create a group with just specific people, and you can give it a color, any color you want. You'll be like, I want to chat with these 4 people, and then you can send messages to them. And yeah, for some reason the messages aren't appearing here on my development server, but again, that's just my development server. It should work on the real server. Can I ask you what inspired you to create gray buttons on a gray background in the mobile version rather than the old colorful ones? It's a small quality of life change that feels like it didn't improve much. Yeah, we'll get into that. Well, the styling update is the next thing we're going to talk about. Let's finish game groups real fast, and then we'll get into that. I mean, that's basically all there is to game groups. There's a few more little things about it I can talk about, but it's basically just a way to talk to people. So if you want to leave a group, you can click on view next to the group's name, and then you have a leave group button, and you will leave. One thing I will note about leaving a group, if you leave a group, you can no longer access the chat in that group. So I know some people might just want to leave them open forever, but yeah, if you leave, you lost it. It's also just fine to stay in it forever if that's what you want. One of the things that people like about game groups, I've seen some people comment about this, is they will stay open. Unlike private chats, if I create a game group here, I have a private chat with John and I have a game group named FFF. If you leave the game and come back, like reloading the page, your private chats disappear by default, but game groups will stay there. So there is a difference between them in that regard. Some people prefer the game group style of where it stays there. Do you have an estimate on when groups will be available on mobile? Yes. So the Android version is out now. If you don't have it yet and you're running on Android, so first off, let me specify. There are 2 apps on Android. There is the classic app, the Warzone app, and then there's the Idle app. The main Warzone app is updated on Android. However, it takes some time for all devices to update. I can see from my statistics that more than half of players are still using the old version. That's because it takes a couple days to update. If you're running Android, you don't have the new version yet, you can get it now by going to the Play Store and clicking Update on the Warzone app. If you're using the Warzone Idle app, which not many people are, but if you happen to be one of the people using the Warzone Idle app on Android, that update will be out any moment now. I've sent it to Android. I sent it to Google yesterday. And so it should be live today is my expectation. If you're talking about iPhone is not out yet. I actually was just working on that before the stream started. I expect to send that to Apple today after the stream ends. And then Apple has to do their whole approval process. So that takes like sometimes a day or two. And then it takes maybe another day to roll out to everybody's phone. So I expect it should be, best case, it'll be out within 2 days, 2 to 3 days. Might take a little bit longer. Sometimes Apple review process is delayed. But that's where we stand on the rollout of this. If you're talking about game groups, as I have been, if you're on mobile and you don't have the update yet, you won't be able to participate in game groups until the update gets there. I realize it's inconvenience because it takes time to roll out, but unfortunately that's just the restriction of the time it takes to roll out on mobile. Out of interest, can I export my own quick match data to see a history of other players' games? Can I export my own quick match data / see a history of other players' games? So you can see all your games by going to past games. For seeing other people's games, you can't directly see, and now I'm broken because this is my development server. I should do it on the real server. You can't directly see other people's games. Like you can't pull up a list of another person's games. There is like the recent game section where you can see like a scattering of games played by other people. But you can't like be like, I want to see this person's games. If you really want that, you can always ask them for a link to their games if you really want to. If you really want to see somebody's games too, if they participate in the ladder, you can always go to the ladder. Or if they participate in Clan Wars, you come in here and look up their games that they've played in the ladder in Clan Wars. There's ways to get like views into other people's games. You just can't see a list of all of their games. What happens if there's a lot of groups in a game? Do the trabs shrink like they do with Global Tat? They should, yes. I haven't actually tested it much, so I'm not entirely sure, but I expect they should shrink. That is the ideal outcome. Can you add BL country in settings game? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you talking about the block list? I don't know what BL country is. Is there a country that the abbreviation's BL? Like Bulgaria or something? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for. You need to clarify. The Bastion present, just listening. Appreciate the time you put in the game. Contributing a coffee with Lemon Silo. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the game. Thank you for your kind words. How does recent games work? What does it pick the list from? How long does a game stay in that list? That's a good question. I haven't looked at that in a long time. It's something like it tries to pick games that it thinks are interesting. We can look at the code together. Let's put this over here. It does a thing like this where it selects games. It has like a weighting system. So like removes lottery games. That's one thing it does. Excludes games where there's no winner, such as a vote to end. Removes games from players who are less than level 20. Refresh. What else does it do? Then it grabs ladder games, ladder ranks. It grabs map ratings. Finish date. Okay, here's the rating. If the game was a coin game, it gets 10 extra points to its weight. So basically it's going to have a weight to every game. Coin games have 10 extra points. If the game is over 80 coins, it gets 10 extra points of weight. If it has any coins, it gets 5 extra points of weight. If it's a tournament game, it gets 3 extra points of weight. Ladder games get 7 extra points. If it's pure skill, it gets 1 extra point. It gets 2 points if it's a top player in the ladder. If it's in the top 10 player, it gets 2 points. If it's a top 20 player, it gets 1 extra point. If it's on a poorly rated map, it loses 5 points. And then it takes the 5 highest rated games from the last hour, the 5 highest rated games from the last hour, and then takes the 30 highest rated games for the last, 30 remaining highest weighted games from some time period. I'm sure I didn't quite see it when I scanned through the code. But that's kind of gives you an idea what the recent games page does. It basically tries to find games that are interesting is the high level. For my games history, can I export everything and get a data dump of all the moves for a given map Kind of interesting to do in modeling contributors experience. Yes, there are APIs. They're only available to members, but if you go to warzone.com/API, there is an API called query game. And then you can come in here, and if you pass, there's a history argument. If you want to get the entire turn history of the game, you can pass get history equals true. And then it will give you every single order and every attack, every deploy, every order of the game. I've played Warzone since 2014. I would like to thank you personally for making my work life a bit easier to bear. Well, thank you for your kind words. I am glad you enjoy the game. And thanks for playing so long. That's 11 years. It's a big deal. Doesn't double boot result in a winner anyways? I don't think I've ever seen a game where everyone booted. Yeah, it's extremely rare. It can happen in tournaments. I think it only happens in tournaments. Can't remember off the top of my head exactly why that happens. It was something like, yeah, it is very rare, but it can happen where you have a game with no winner. I don't remember exactly why it happens off the top of my head. Okay, game groups. Let's go back to game groups. I know we're jumping all over the place. So I talked about leaving a game group. The person who creates a game group is considered the owner or moderator of it. You can see it has the word moderator after my name here. The only thing the moderator can do special right now is they have this invite to group button where they can actually add people to the group after the fact. Oh wow, I don't like how added and the exclamation point are on a different line. I need to get that fixed. I haven't seen it turn any easier. If you ever find such a game, I'd be interested to see that. Sure, I can do a search and find one for you after the stream. If you send me mail to remind me, I will do that for you. It is very rare. It might only be in coin tournaments or something like that. I can't remember the circumstances. But moderators can invite new people. That's just one thing you need to know about game groups. If you're in a game group and you're talking between 3 or 4 people, note that you can actually new people could get added to that game group after the fact. If you're not the moderator. If you're the moderator, you're in full control over who gets added. If somebody invites you to a group, though, just remember anything you say there could get exposed to someone else in the future if someone else gets added to the group. Just a word of warning. If the moderator leaves the group, then another person will be selected as the new moderator for that group. And it's just random. Another person that's in the group will be the new moderator. So even if you trust the moderator, you don't know 100% certain that what you send to that group will stay within those people. I just want to say that I really love the groups this update. I feel like I craved it a long time while. Love the work you put in the game over the years, giving me and the community something to do over the past 10 years. Going back to the groups, since that seems to be a topic, would moderators be able to kick people? Sorry if it was asked already. First, thank you about your kind words. I'm glad you enjoy the game. And I'm glad you enjoy the group updates. Currently, I decided not to have kicking from game groups. Part of the reason I did that is I don't want people to lose access to the messages that they've seen. Because right now, if you kick someone out of the group, it will just disappear from the tab. And I didn't want people to lose messages that they've previously seen. I didn't want you to have to take screenshots to try to remember stuff. Because oh, I might get kicked. So you currently cannot kick me out of groups. Now, you can always recreate the group without that person. Then it would technically be a new group, not the same one. But if you really want to send something to the group and exclude one person, you can do that just by recreating the group. That being said, maybe at some point someone will request kicking people out of groups. It is possible it could have been done in a way that you could kick someone out of the group, but they don't lose access to it. It still is here. It just says you've been kicked and you can't send messages and you won't get new messages. That is possible. I just decided I wasn't sure that was a necessary feature, so I didn't include it in the first version. But maybe in the future, if that's something people want, there is the feature request form. I talk about this on every stream. The main way to request features in Warzone is to go to the feature request forum. Let me actually go to the real one. If you go to forum, feature requests, this is the feature request forum. A lot of the features that we're going to be talking about today originated from ideas on this forum. Game groups is indeed one of them. People wanted the ability to make groups within a game. They requested it, people voted on it, and I implemented it. When can we begin making Clan Rumble games? Clan Rumble is an automated thing. It's not made by the players. It should be, I think, one's created every 60 days or something like that. I haven't been keeping up on them, to be honest. I need to look at those and see how those are going. But those should exist. If they aren't getting created, also let me know. You can get a list of your own game IDs, yes. But then you need to scrape the IDs in your past games page. Oh. Is there any hope of getting a confirmation box over public chat in games? Many games are ruined because a player accidentally chatted in public rather than in team chat. Oh. You feel free to put that on the feature request form. I've actually never heard of someone asking for a confirmation whenever you do public chat. I haven't seen many games like that get ruined myself, but I'm sure it happens. Is that something other people have experienced? Thanks for the fast response on my ticket the other day. What happened with the buttons making them disabled? Can you give a reminder on what you're talking about? Oh, I think you might be talking about idle. Oh yeah, there was a bug when this update first went live. There was a bug that I fixed pretty quickly, so most people probably didn't see it, but some of the buttons on Warzone Idle were not re-enabling properly after they became disabled. It's like you would come in here to the Orcell page. You would click on this. You click on this select button, and then this one you couldn't go back, which is a bug. And I think 2 people reported it, and so I fixed it pretty quickly. It's unfortunate, but currently there are not more idle levels planned for the future. Typing the wrong chat is simply a skill issue. Could be. Doesn't mean a confirmation is impossible. I'm not sure how often that happens. That's the kind of thing that if enough people voted for it, I'd consider it. The other thing people have voted for in the past that has never been done is just a confirmation on committing. Like when you commit your orders, I think we have a feature request for that. I don't know how highly voted it is. Some people want like, are you sure these are your orders you want to commit? Someday we might add that, but only if it got enough votes. So let's see, game groups. Anything else I need to say about game groups? So they have a color. We talked about inviting. Talked about moderators changing. I think that's it. It's a pretty simple thing. Again, this is not fully live on iPhone yet. It is live on Android and the website, of course. You love the new update? Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. I've sabotaged myself many times typing in the wrong chat. Can't confirm skill issue. Why put the group stuffs in private messages? Yeah, originally I was going to add another groups button here. And the real problem is on mobile when they have very limited horizontal space when you're a mobile player and you're playing in portrait mode, like you're holding your phone, you know, like most people hold their phones. Like I'm trying to show it here. You know, if you have very limited horizontal space, crap. When you have very limited horizontal space and you have multiple tabs here, already that looks awful. What's wrong with that? I think that's because I need to reload it. Yeah, I can't easily show it, but especially if you have team chat here and you have a couple groups, there's really not much more room for another button. It gets very horizontally constrained. Of course, on mobile, these would be closed, so it'd be a little better. But you can imagine if you have team chat, maybe you're in 3 groups or something. It's like you really just want one button here rather than 2, just because horizontal space is at a premium. That's the main reason. Maybe rename the button to chats or something like that. Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable thing to do. I mean, groups is still kind of a form of private chat, but yeah, I could see it going both ways. In-game diplomacy be added? Question mark? Not modded. Where you can form alliances by default would help for us diplomacy players. Yeah, the way that's mostly done right now is by mods. So my main question would be, Serena, what's wrong with the modding? What's wrong with the diplomacy mods that exist? Is there something that you want to do that the mods don't currently do? Are you just want it because you want it to not cost coins? Or you want to play without being a member? Why are all the clan icons missing in this game? Because this is my development server, and I don't download the clan icons to my development server. Here you go. Here you go. Fixed. Also, if we end up eventually with confirmation for chats, please only make it available if private messaging is available. I don't want to confirm every single time I want to type something. Yeah, that was my first reaction too when I heard confirmation for typing in public chat. I'm like, how exactly is that going to work? You don't want to have to click a button every single time you chat. It'd be annoying. Ideally, I would say detect screen width and show 2 buttons if widescreen. Yeah, I run into this situation a lot actually, where it's like I have one UI in my mind that would make sense if you're on a big screen like a computer, and another UI that makes sense if you're on a mobile device. And I'm like, how do I consolidate that? Usually I just try to find a compromise. If I had infinite time, yes, I think I would make both and make it dynamically switch. And there are some times where some things like that do happen actually in the app, but for the most of the time, my go-to strategy is to come up with a UI that works on both devices, works on all screen sizes, just because it tends to take a lot less time. Such confirmation sounds like something that must be user setting. Same with confirmations for committing. Yeah, that's certainly an option. Okay. So I think that's everything I have to say about game groups. So the style refresh. You've probably already noticed this in some places in the game, like the background on the order section and the player section is different. Practically all of the dialogues have a different background. One of the biggest changes is to this game menu over here. And I know there's been some mixed reactions about it, but personally I think it looks way better. I think it's nicer, more consistent, and yeah, it's basically just a style update. Also on the mobile app, and if you're on iPhone, you haven't seen this yet. If you're on Android, you probably have. Where'd the mobile app go? I closed it. This top right menu got a similar style update to that. I think it looks way better, personally. There's already a message saying, are you sure you don't need to commit any tax or transfer this turn? That is true. And some people want that. But committing without any attacks or transfers is a very rare thing. So it's very unusual. You need to actually click yes on that dialogue. But commit every turn. Some people want confirmation on every turn, which personally I think is excessive, but some people want it. Doesn't stop me from actually hitting the commit button when rolling around in bed with my actual attacks missing and hitting commit and change, but that's surely a skill issue too. Like the red-green, but the gray is okay. I would really like to be easier to search for maps. That seems like a great thing for the feature request form. I will say though, easy expellism squeezy. If you add that to the feature request form, do comment on exactly what you would like to be easier. If don't just say I want it to be easier, because then that could mean a lot of different things. Comment on what you would like to be easier. Like, do you want to search by territory size? Do you want to search by name? Do you want to search like all European maps or whatever? I don't know. I don't know what you have in mind. So be specific. Feel free to submit it to the feature request form. Holy script broke again last update. That's a shame. So we're going to go over all the other changes. So clan and group chat room numbers are displayed in the top right corner, are now tracked on the server instead of on the client. What we're talking about is if you have unread chat from your clan or a group you're in, it puts a little number up here in the top right corner. That number appears on this thing as well. What it used to be before this update, that number was tracked independently on every device. So if you like switch from your browser to your mobile app or something like that, if somebody sends an unread message on one, you go to the other and you read it, and then you go to the other device, it would show as unread still, and you have to click the button to get rid of the number, which is annoying. It should really track across all devices, so that's what it does now. Can I make a feature request just to implement Molly script into Warzone? What I would say is take Molly's individual features that you use and create feature requests for those. Because the problem is if you just say implement Molly script into Warzone, that's too broad. If there's even one, like if I even did one thing, I would have to mark the entire thing as resolved, which is not really fair. Plus, you'd be leaving it up to me to choose which things in his script to implement. And the advantage of implementing them directly into Warzone 2 instead of having it in Molly's script is then they work across all devices. Because most people play Warzone from mobile, so most people don't even have access to whatever features you're talking about here. So if we implement them directly into Warzone, it gets them access to everyone, which is even better. Sometimes I just miss and click the wrong button when committing orders. I'm clumsy. That public chat could just be a settings option so you can turn on confirmation for committing and public chat on or off. I do agree. That is the way it would be done if it gets done. The only reason it hasn't been done is, honestly, not enough people have voted on it. It's one of those features that, personally, I don't think it's too important. Like, it's kind of my opinion. So I haven't really been pushing for it, but if enough people voted on it, I'd be willing to do it. There are some features that, like, I wouldn't do no matter how many people voted on them. And those ones I just decline. Like, they're not even on this list. And there's some features that, like, as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm just going to do that. I don't care how many people vote on it. I'm just going to do it. And then there's some features like this one where I'm like, I could kind of see it both ways. It would have to get a lot of votes to get done. 700 unread messages whenever I open the app. Thanks for fixing that. Even if I never made a feature request for it. You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it. Every part of Molly's user script was fire? I don't share that opinion. Some things in there I'm like, why would this be a thing? Why do people want this? I don't get it. Okay. Searching private discussions is no longer limited to 50 results. This was just something people asked me for when you're searching your private discussions. Fixed clan ordering when results points were very close. Yeah, this was an unfortunate bug in Clan Wars. How do I go to Clan Wars? This has to do with ties. So when clans have the exact same number of points, I don't see any that have the exact same number. Okay, well down here there's a couple that have the exact same number. Before, it would sometimes put them in the wrong order. So there's currently not a good tiebreaker, but it would, if the numbers were very close, it would sometimes put in the wrong order. Again, if you thought you were 23rd and you're actually 22, I guess it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, somebody noticed it, and so I fixed it. A feature for editing the name of territories, like editing the value of bonuses and territories. So you want to edit, just to clarify what you're talking about, you're saying you want to edit the name of a territory when making a game? As in, you're not the map creator. You're not talking about maps you made. You're talking about, I want to make a game on this map, but I want this territory to have a different name. It's interesting. I've never heard that request before. Also, editing a public chat message for spelling errors or sending private chat to public chat. Yeah, we could have like an undo or an edit. Maybe not an undo, just an edit. You could edit it to blank, of course. If I did an edit for public chat messages, I would think you should only be able to edit it for like a certain amount of time after you send it. Like maybe you should get like 2 minutes or something like that to edit your message. How is it fixed now? Does it go by win rate or clan? So actually there's not a good tiebreaker for Clan Wars right now. So first off, there are decimal places on these points. It's not showing the decimal points on this list, but there are fractional points that you can earn. So a lot of these are, the tiebreaker is the fractional points that you can't see. But if there are two clans that literally have identical scores, then there's currently no tiebreaker. And that's kind of unfortunate in my opinion. There probably should be a tiebreaker. I'm not sure what that tiebreaker would be, but if someone has an idea, feel free to submit it to the feature request form and I will consider it. Oh, this one I'm actually really excited for. In no luck cyclic games, the move order is directly on the screen instead of being hidden away under the game menu. I will show it off. This was something that I always had to do when playing like any game with NLC move order. So in no luck cyclic move order, you can actually see who is going first on each turn. Let me show that off. It's under, change army settings. No luck cyclic. Create. And then we play a turn. So you can see here, it says first order right under your commit button. You used to have to go to the game menu, and then it was here. It's been moved from the game menu to be directly on the screen. I did that because honestly, this is something that I personally look at almost every time I'm playing a no luck cyclic game. So I felt it was useful to have it on the screen rather than have to open the game order. You can still open the game menu and click on move order to see more information about the move order, such as first, second, third, fourth, if you want to see the full thing. You can also see how fast each player took their first turn, which determines the move order in LLC mode. It also gets some additional information here. This dialogue has been cleaned up a little bit. There's also this question mark next to it, which also opens that dialogue. So those are all improvements I think are very solid improvements. I hope people enjoy those. Edited messages would need a history, though. Otherwise, you get the same situation with deleted messages where people try to cover up history or change things or remove offensive language. That's true. Although, if you're adding a history, is it really benefit? Oh, if you add a history, it doesn't solve the problem that Windwolf brought up, which is if you accidentally send something to public chat and you meant to send it to a team or a group, the editing would not solve that problem if you allowed a history. So I could see it both ways. I'm not sure what the best way is. Remove offensive language. That's true. You would need like moderator tools to be able to see all of them. Because somebody could say something super offensive and then edit it out and then be like, oh, I didn't say that. All things you'd have to take into consideration if you had an editing feature. Yes, it would be using a map from another creator, not a map creator, but I would enjoy editing names for historical accuracy in roleplay games. Yeah, you feel free to submit that to the feature request form. I've actually, 17 years of making this game, I've never had that feature request. So good job. It came up with something new. An edit feature would be amazing on chats, even if there's a 2-minute timer and the editability, that would be great. There's a fairly new feature request for themed cards. How difficult would this be to have different theme packs for cards that match game styles, fantasy, diplomacy, space-themed games, etc.? That's interesting. I would say that probably should be implemented with mods. Mods can do that now as of, like, what was it? Several months ago, we added the ability for custom cards. And mod makers have really gone crazy with it. There's all sorts of crazy cards now you can choose from. And a mod could create themed cards. What do we got that's good? Like there's, let's sort by recently updated card pack. Like the nuke card, pestilence card, isolation, all these things. Whoa, this is slow. All sorts of crazy cards. Oh, well, I'd have to set it up, but I'm not going to show it off on stream, but you get the idea. There's all sorts of crazy cards now. Speaking of move order, it'd be handy to have a little note at the top that you could set yourself. So once you figure out if you're even or odd, you could click it as one or the other. My memory is so bad I always have to go back to history and figure out the turn or multiple times a game. If I could set it once per game, that would be handy. Yes, I do agree with that. That is something I would enjoy as well. 100% agree. You're talking about what I showed off before was in NLC games, no luck cyclic games. What you're talking about is cyclic move order. In cyclic move order, you are not told the move order. You have to kind of figure it out by looking at your orders and your opponent's orders. And what Gunk is saying is that once you figure it out, there should be a way to like write it down so you don't have to remember. Because I often do this too, where I like have to try to remember, okay, I'm even this game. And then like the next game, okay, I'm odd this game, and I have to remember. And then sometimes I forget and I have to go look again. It's like, you can always open history and look, but I agree that would be a handy feature. Feel free to add that to the feature request forum. Maybe someday that'll get done. Open seats and coin games now expire after 5 days instead of never expiring. So open seats expire because a long time ago, over 10 years ago, what I found is before open seats ever expired, someone would just create like a really dumb game. It's like a bad game that had really stupid settings, and people would avoid joining it because people realized it had dumb settings. But then eventually all the good games would get joined, and then the bad game would be the only one left. And so people kept joining the bad games. And it was kind of a bad new player experience because a new player would join in, they'd go to Open Games page, and it would be filled with a bunch of really dumb games. And they'd join one because they didn't know. And then they'd have a really bad experience. So like, this game is dumb. And what I realized is the good games would start and get off the list, and the bad games would persist. And then so it kind of made sense to be like, all right, if nobody joins a game after a certain number of days, let's expire those open seats just so that they don't clog up the open games list forever. This was a very different time. Back then, open games list was like permanently empty because games would fill up almost as fast as they were created, sometimes faster than they were created. Today we have like over 100 games on the open games list. It's kind of different, but yeah, that's the reason open games expired. But coin games were originally exempted from that because I'm like, oh, if somebody pays coins for a game, they should not be kicked off the list. That was like over 10 years ago that decision was made. And then somebody sent me a link to a coin game that was really dumb, or something was wrong with it. What was it? There was an unstartable game. Someone created a game that for some reason could not be started. Oh, it was because they invited someone and they invited an open seat. And the person they invited did not join. But because it had an open seat, it would just stay there forever until all the open seats were filled. And apparently someone would join the open seat and leave the open seat, and it would just sit there forever. So it doesn't make sense to have it there forever. It should expire. Open games should expire. Even coin games. There's a long-winded explanation for that. But private group with just yourself for notes? Yes, that is in fact already a thing. You can create a private group and just invite no one. Name it notes. You can make it whatever color you want. Screaming green, sure. And there you go. And since you are the moderator, you never have to worry about someone else getting in there. You can now write notes to yourself within the context of a game. I should have mentioned that. Thank you for pointing that out. The quick match multi-day game slider, as in the number of games that you want to play in at a time. This slider, invite me to multi-day games at a time. This slider goes to 10. It used to only go to 5. Now there was a trick with this before. Before this update, you could still play 10 games at a time. You just had to type 10 into the box. Whereas if you're using the slider, it made it look like you could only go to 5. I realized that was pretty counterintuitive. The slider should probably reflect the actual range you are allowed to select. 10 is the actual maximum. So now the slider goes to 10. So if you've been in 5 and you've not had enough, you felt like you never had enough, well, now you can go to 10. But isn't 1v1 game lacking the groups feature? Yes. So the private notes right now would only be useful if you're in a game with at least 4 players. And private messaging has to be turned on. Those are the 2 requirements for game groups to exist. The game has to allow private messaging, and you have to have at least 4 players. So I agree it's not a perfect notes feature, but it is at least useful for that some of the time. I've been playing since 2016. I remember the days of Warlights. What was the reason for switching the name? Were there copyright issues? No, there were not copyright issues. So Warzone is the sequel to Warlight. The game was rewritten from scratch, and a whole bunch of new features were added, like quick match and mods and commerce mode and all sorts of stuff. Okay. Army cap and non-default kill rates are now shown when you hover over those icons. So these little icons at the top here, like this one, has non-default kill rates. when you hover over this, it used to just say non-default kill rates and it wouldn't tell you what they were. But now it actually tells you what they are. That's what that is. That was just a feature request someone submitted. I don't remember who submitted that, but somebody submitted that, and I'm like, sure, sounds like a good idea. So I did it. Players you have blocklisted can no longer nudge you. This is another thing that someone just sent me a request for. And I'm like, yeah, okay, makes sense. I'll make that change. Fix surrendering during picks of single-player games causing an error. Yeah, it used to be if you went to a single-player game, you made it manual distribution. There's no reason you would have to do this, but if you made a manual distribution game, and then you have all these mods selected. Yeah, I don't need to download the mod. Ah, crap. Well, that's screwed up. But it used to be if you went to picks on a game and you surrendered, then you would get an error message. So that's fixed. Commander text in the settings dialog. So in the settings dialog, in a game when commanders are checked, it says something like, all players are given a commander at the start of the game. Except I realized there's an edge case where that isn't true with custom scenarios. If there's a custom scenario, the custom scenario can define who gets commanders and who does not. It's possible to create a custom scenario where some players don't get commanders. So the text was updated. So instead of saying all players get a commander, when a custom scenario is in play, I think it says something different. I think it says like, you get a commander if the scenario gives you one or something like that. I don't remember what it says, but that's what that change is. Just because somebody complained to me, they were very confused. They sent me a link to a game and they're like, it says all players get a commander, but this player doesn't have a commander. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. Text is wrong. And then there's a bunch of fixes for idle with the tank. This is something that's been a long request for idle. If you get a free AP reset, which you can get with some of the bundles, there's like one of the yearly bundles gives you a free AP reset. But if you have a free AP reset, the way that works is you would click the button for an AP reset. It would pop up a message saying it's free. But some people wouldn't know to click that button. So now the button actually says free on it because some people are getting tripped up by that. They'd be like, why would I click a button that costs money just to be told that then it's free? Well, it's like, okay, the button should tell you it's free. Is a reason you need to play at least 2 games at a time on the 2v2 ladder. That setting is preventing you and your friend from joining. So the ladders, you really need enough activity to get an accurate rating. Some people really want to play slowly, but that's really not what the ladders are about. The ladders are about competing in a competitive arena. And if you can't commit to a certain minimum number of games, then you should join when you're ready to commit to that number of games. Really, it would just be if somebody was only playing 1 game at a time, because the games take so long, it would be too little data to give a rating to that player. Are the market/camps ordered by an internal ID or something? What decides that order? Yes, they are. So the way Warzone idle levels are generated is there's like a routine that actually plays the level, kind of. So it starts off with all the territories blank, and then it will say, how many armies do I have at this point? And then it will base the number, and then it will pick a territory, and it will say, okay, that's the next territory. And it'll ask how many armies it has at that point, and then some percentage of that will become the cost of that territory. So it kind of walks through the level. It kind of plays the level and builds it as it walks through it. And then the order that the markets and camps were placed down by that algorithm is the order that they show up. Well, generally it's considered to be the weaker to stronger. Not always exactly, but that's kind of generally how they go. I know you're busy, but when you get a chance, could you address my idle syncing issue message from last week regarding my missing insane AV artifact? I think I have an pending email from you about that, and I will get back to it. I try to get back to all my emails within 3 days of them being sent. And I think yours was less than that at this point. But yes, I will get back to it. I have it on my list. I'm a recurring character on your Warzone Instagram. Is that Warzone or Call of Duty Warzone? I don't have Instagram. I don't know if it'll let me see this. Yeah, I can't actually see it. I don't have an Instagram account. Sorry, but I hope you're enjoying it. If we have to play 2 games at the same time, it would be nice if there were maybe 3 different templates for variety. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. That's not really what the 2v2 ladders are about. The ladders are kind of like hardcore get good on one template. That's kind of what the theme of the ladders are. Quick match is kind of where you go for variety. Maybe someday somebody wants a ladder with multiple templates. That would be interesting. But currently we don't have that, sorry. When super sending, idle will no longer... Oh, so this is something... Somebody accidentally lost one of their insane artifacts, which I restored for them. But there was a issue where if you accidentally misclicked and accidentally deselected an artifact, right before you click the super send button, you could accidentally lose one. So I just made it so you can't deselect artifacts while that dialog is up. So that shouldn't happen to anyone anymore. Fix, and then just a bunch of fixes for idle. The website, this bug was fixed where if you press tab on the input boxes, this is when you're creating when you're overriding bonus values here. Tab works here now. That's all that is. I can press tab and cycle through these. This was actually came up during the last live stream. Someone pointed out that that wasn't working, and I'm like, oh yeah, should fix that. There's already community ran multi-template ladder. You're right. You should check out the multi-template ladder. That sounds exactly what they want. And then just a bunch of other bug fixes. I don't know that we necessarily need to go through all these or the mod stuff. Unless anyone has a question about any of those, I'm just going to gloss over them. Your main interest in team games. Does the multi-template ladder support team games? I don't think it does. You can always create open games. True is, I don't know how to say your name, but I would say the open games is always the most flexible way to play. You can create a team game up here with any template you want, as many as you want. Well, I mean, up to your normal limits. Okay, so that is the end of everything I was going to talk about on the blog. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over all the questions that were asked in this forum thread. And then that'll be the end of the stream. MTL does not have any team templates, yeah. It's fine to be focused on one thing, but what is the plan with the new style? Why is it so gray? I kind of feel like the color should be reserved for the map itself. Like, I feel like the map is very colorful and vibrant in the game, and that's also where the player's main focus should be on the other players and stuff. So I kind of feel like the auxiliary stuff should be kind of bland. I don't know, that's kind of my design. I don't claim to be an expert designer, but I do the best I can. New styles change the way Warzone is shown on my PC. It's not a problem, but I do find it hard to understand why some fancy frames, etc. takes precedence over a clear view of the map. I'm not sure what you mean by that, to be honest. The map you should always have a clear view of the map. I agree you should always have a clear view of the map. If you don't, I would like to see a screenshot. Maybe you could send me a screenshot and show me what you mean. Because I don't think any of the styles I change should obscure the map. I'm a little confused by that. Why Quick Match Lobby makes it impossible to browse other games on iPhone? Are you talking about why you're searching for a new quick match game? When you say quick match lobby, you're talking about like the searching for opponent page, and you're asking why while you're searching for an opponent you can't also like browse your games. There is a way to do that, and that is called tabs. It's one of the features that is a member unlockable. So if you are a member, you can come into the settings and check this box right here that says tabs, and when you turn that on, then you get this little tab bar on the top, and you can like have multiple tabs. So you can have one tab in quick match, one tab in this game, and another tab in like idle or something like that. And you can switch between them, and you can like search for a game here and play a game over here. It is a very useful feature. I use it all the time. The sound when units move is horrible? You're talking about the little swish when you transfer, or are you talking about the attack? I'm not sure if you're talking about the attack transfer. There's no way to change the sounds, but you can, of course, mute the sounds or change the volume in the settings menu. I asked about it in global chat. His issue is that he sees a border on MME map now, when he somehow never saw before. I don't know what that's about. He should send me a screenshot of that. Errors from fighting can make things very chaotic and unclear on some maps. Yes, they can. Currently, the way you combat that is you go to the orders menu in the top right corner and you click through orders to try to dissect what happened. Would there be a way to edit territory bonuses in the map editing / territory distribution and not in the army settings? I usually have 2 tabs for Warzone open. I can see the name and then or other to cycle through the list alphabetically, which is tedious for large maps. You want to edit territory bonuses in the map editing territory distribution. Are you talking about a custom scenario by chance? Because the distribution page is right here and the army page is right here. I don't see any value in moving it from like this page to this page. You might be talking about the custom scenario editor, but it's not clear to me if that's what you're talking about. The attack. I just wish I could somehow open something in a new tab in the app without having to move to the game from the multiplayer dashboard. Open something in a new tab without having to move to the game from the multiplayer dashboard. I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about like you have a link and you want to open it in a new window? A new tab? Any updates on the lawsuit? Unfortunately, no. We are still waiting on the judge. Why not global chat? You're asking why global chat does not synchronize across devices. I don't know that there's much value in doing that. The global chat spins so fast. So all of the chat rooms only store on 100 messages. And global chat spins so fast. Are there really people who are like reading global chat on one device and then closing that and going to another device and wanting to resume reading global chat? Is that actually a thing that happens? Like it would only be if it happened very quick, only if you switch devices very quickly, because if you were like coming back hours later, it's going to be all new anyway. Do you keep records of or have data for the number of times players sync their idle games? I'm sure I'm not the only one who plays from at least 2 platforms. If I go from one to the other, I always click the sync button. Autos, is it data intensive to sync on your end? So for one thing I will say is that in the recent updates, a couple updates ago, or over the last few months, let's say that, I've made a lot of improvements to the way Warzone Idle syncs. And I would hope now that you don't have to manually click the sync button anymore. I think you don't. In fact, maybe you'd be willing to test this for me, Gunk. Why don't you try not clicking the sync button anymore and see if you actually run into any problems. I suspect you will not. There might be some edge cases where you still might have to sync, but most of the time, you actually should not have to click the sync button anymore. I do get data. It is stored on the server when people click the sync button. Whenever Warzone Idle updates, it puts a little record in the log, and it says what caused the update. But Warzone Idle syncs on its own, so most of the time you should not have to be clicking the sync button. I know in the past there were bugs where clicking the sync button was necessary when switching devices. I believe all those bugs are fixed though. Yeah, I like how middle mouse button works in the browser but inside the app. Yeah, that's actually something I've been wanting to add for a long time. Both to the standalone client and to the mobile client. I think it would just be a long press is how you would do it. Or maybe a 2-finger press. I think that's how it works on other things. I'm spacing right now, but I think that's how Android works, right? You do a 2-finger press and it pops up a little menu, or a long press, one of the two. I'd have to figure out which one, but there are ways to do it. If a mod becomes quite popular, can it become accessible to non-members eventually? That is possible. That has already happened with one mod. That has happened with the Pix Swap mod. I do think there's some value in having some mods available to non-members. But it's but mostly mods are a member feature. They are one of the benefits of buying a membership is getting access to all the mods. Sometimes I have chats open on the app while playing on the PC. Chats, yes, but global chat? Do you use global chat in both places and switch back and forth? I think that's the more part that JK is asking about here. If people want this, feel free to create a feature request for it. Feature request for it. Gunk Sync is broken anyway, so might as well become the beta tester for the syncing app. I will try not syncing. All right. Let me know how it goes. One thing I kind of dislike, now when you open the game menu with mods, the mod menus are the same color as the others. I notice I like the distinction between the standard button menu and the mod menus. Not necessarily asking for different colors, but I think having some visual distinction for which buttons are added by mods is a good feature. Just making mod a different color? Yeah, I mean, the design that exists now is it puts mod : in front of it. That's how you know it was from a mod. I do agree that maybe it could use an icon instead. You know what it should probably do is it should probably use the icon of that mod, because mods have icons now. Like if you go to the mods page, not every mod has an icon because icons were a relatively recent addition. But you can see these mods have pictures now. So maybe that little picture should be there next to the button. That's probably what it should do. Longtime player, first time chatter, thanks for building this great game and fostering a great community. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by. Probably too early, but how well are mods in mega games? They are going well. Maybe it's time for another mega games with mods. Yes, it is indeed. In fact, I would say it is overdue. If anyone has an idea on what mods or all game settings would make a good mega game, send me suggestions. I'm interested in hearing about that. Who creates modded games with large number of players? Does anybody here do that? I'd be interested in getting some templates from you that you think would be good for a mega game, like hundreds of players. Also, just got my hands on a VR headset. When does the VR drop? It's not something I'm currently working on. I did work on it for a while, but did not complete that work. This might be dumb, but it would be possible to have autopilot option that moves armies closer to the nearest enemy border. I do think that's a reasonable request. I do think autopilot does do that. You're saying you want autopilot does only that. I think you're asking for autopilot does only that, because the current autopilot does do that, but it does a lot of other things as well. Emoji support in the app? Yeah. That is something I want to do. If we willing to commit 150 losses in the last 5 days of Clan Wars seasons. We all good, yes, not violating rules. I'm not sure what you mean. Why can people not be kicked from groups? Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the stream. Probably no progress on this subject, but how is the situation with full Unicode support in the apps going? I don't think there's anything I can do about that in Unity. I suppose I could modify the Unity portion of the source code to add that feature, but it's not really something that's very easily feasible for me to do. So there's not currently an autopilot option to only move units towards the border, unfortunately. Feel free to create a feature request for that. Why are tournaments only open for 1 day? So we used to have a problem where people could, so you're talking about public tournaments? I think private tournaments are open for much longer than that. But public tournaments, if you want your tournament to be open to everyone on the open tournaments page, I think you have 2 days. I think it goes longer than that, doesn't it? Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Tournament starts in, oh, you're right, it is limited to 1 day. So we used to have a problem where tournaments could be open for much longer than that. And what would happen is we just ended up with hundreds of tournaments on the open tournaments page. And like none of them would ever start. And it was a huge problem because It was a huge problem because then somebody would go to that page, they would join a tournament, and then it just wouldn't start. And most of them were never starting, and it was basically a dysfunctional system. So the time limit was added to ensure that the tournaments actually work. If you are a player who joins tournaments and you go to the tournaments page, I want you to know that that tournament will actually start. Because what would happen in the past is you would join a tournament and then it would start like 9 months later or something like that. And pretty much everyone that joined it would get booted. And so it was basically completely dysfunctional. So yeah, I want players that join tournaments to know that they're joining a tournament that will actually start. As a member, I can have twice as many open games as others, so it's a reasonable request that I get 2 days on my coin tournaments instead of just one. 1 day isn't really enough for when someone happens to be busy for a day, which means they might miss an entire tournament. Yeah, I mean, you can create a feature request and up it to 2 days. That's a reasonable request. Almost half of Warzone Idle Battle doesn't reach the 10 players needed to start. Is it possible to implement a mini battle mode when there are at least 5 players? Maybe without the rank prizes, but only the battle points? That's an interesting idea. I don't know. I feel like more needs to be done with Warzone Idle Battle. I'm not too happy with the current situation with it, to be honest. I joined in the stream a bit late. You are. This will probably be the last question. So hopefully this wasn't already mentioned, but is anyone else having a problem in Idle where the deactivate button for a smelter wraps the final E to the next line because the button isn't wide enough? No, I wasn't aware of that. Let's see. The deactivate button for a smelter. Yeah, I do see that problem. I will get that fixed. As part of the styling update for this update, some of the paddings were changed for some of these dialogues, so that's a side effect of that. I agree it's a bug. I will get that fixed. All right. I feel like 1 day boot time is always too short. 1 day, a couple hours should be the minimum. I think most people play every day, right? Okay. So that is going to be the end of today's stream. So thanks everyone so much for watching. Would there be room to add a fog option between light and normal fog? Large custom games on light fog, but I would like a normal fog with a line of sight. A few more territories in range. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Feel free to add that to the feature request form. Sounds like a good feature to me. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. And I hope to see you for the next stream. Have a good week.